Okay, so welcome to the, is it the sixth?
Sixth.
God, I gotta start
Already.
keeping track of this. Okay, it's the sixth episode of Real Time Real Estate with Sandra King.
Casey Lyons.
And today we have my favorite guest so far, Dave Fleming.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So what'd you do this weekend?
If you
You expect me to remember back that far?
Well, I was trying to remember what happened the other day.
Not a whole lot. We cleaned up some things around the house, tried to get ready for fall a little bit. And,
Yeah, fall's coming, I think.
you know, it's that time of year. So we got to get ready for when the snow comes.
Yeah, that's what we did too. We cleaned out the garage. I made Oscar get rid of some stuff, although he was really trying to convince me he needed it. I'm like, you haven't seen it in all these years it's been out here in the garage under this other stuff. You're not going to miss it.
Yeah, we're doing better at that lately.
Yeah.
We got somebody to bring us one of those big bins. So for last month, we've been throwing metal stuff from
Oh, that's
places
a good idea.
and getting it in there. So we have a full now, and we found a lot of stuff. So
Oh, that's a good idea. I should do that.
yeah.
Cool. What'd you do this weekend?
Worked and then worked again. We had hunters here, so I cooked all weekend and showed houses and cooked again and
Full service realtor?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right on. How'd your hunters do?
Really good. It's been
Okay.
a really good year. So
Good.
Cool.
it's fun. My little boy's addicted to it at age 2. So
Oh my
It only
gosh.
gets worse.
no, yeah, he packs his little gun everywhere. And I maybe pulled the most epic prank on a small child. Most moms would probably shun me for it, but it was hilarious.
Yeah, you got to tell David it was
So
pretty
he
funny.
got all dressed up in his hunting clothes and was leaving, like left the house. So you can see our front of our house through our laundry room. So I like got up there and was watching, and I like made a elk bugle noise at him, and he got all excited, and then he took off down the road. So I had to run outside to watch him because we have bad snakes. And I hid behind the car, and I made like a bugle noise. I made a bear noise, and he just knew that he was hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was hilarious. After every noise she made, because she videoed it, and so I got to see it, she would laugh. So I'm like, your ranch is the only ranch with laughing animals.
Oh, yeah.
But he was serious about it. He'd stop and look around. It was so cute. It was pretty good.
That's
But
good.
Yeah,
yeah, we'll have to show it at his wedding.
yeah, starting young.
Yeah. Cool. So tell us about your background.
My
Where you grew
background,
up.
wow. So, you know, I grew up in southwestern Wyoming, but I spent almost every summer that I can remember on the family ranch on my mom's side, which originally started in Browns Park. Then they lost the ranch and for bird refuge. So after that, they went to different ranches, probably 3 or 4 different ranches through all the years until I got out of high school. But every summer I was out there working on the ranch. So I kind of knew Craig a little bit. You know, we came to Craig every once in a while. I used to go
Right.
to Vernal every once in a while to shop. But most of the time, the family always went to Rock Springs and Green River
Right, because it's
area.
closer.
And that's where my mom went to school and all the family. So most of what we did was in Wyoming, but was familiar with the area around here. So
And your aunt or your cousin wrote a book that I have somewhere at my house about that.
my aunt,
Your aunt, okay.
yeah, the youngest of the 6 kids. She's actually only 9 years older than me.
That's right.
And so when I was little growing up, she was a teenager. And so we used to go ride horses together and all that kind of stuff. I used to hang out with the younger kids.
So would
Oh,
that be
bigger.
like Quita Mantle time, too? The Mantle time?
When I was out there?
When did you say your aunt wrote the book?
Mm-hmm.
So that would
Yeah.
be Quita time, wouldn't it? Or a little
No.
after?
No, that was quite a bit after. Well, are you talking about Queen Anne or
Quita.
Quita?
Yeah, yep. Pat's sister.
Pat's sister? I didn't really know any of them, so I'm not sure. She probably, you know, might be about my mom's age.
I bet so.
I think probably a little bit older than probably Diana.
Okay.
But yeah, so she,
Gosh, you're lucky. You got the good old Wild West times.
yeah, I wished I could remember half of them. grandmother told me about Browns Park and all the
Yeah.
history and all the things
Yeah.
that went on. And but you know, we used to go out and hunt arrowheads and do all
Oh,
that kind
yeah.
of stuff. And so you know, Taylor Flat is named after my grandmother's father. My
Oh, I
great
didn't
grandpa
know
Taylor
that. Oh, cool.
came out there in I think it was 1905. They came to the park area. My grandmother wasn't actually born yet. She was born out there in '07, I believe.
Wow. And
That's
where'd they come
really
from to
cool.
there?
From Nebraska.
Oh, really?
Oh,
How did
boy.
I never know that? Ha,
Yeah.
ha, ha.
So
Go
yeah, they
Huskies.
came from Nebraska in a covered wagon and
Yeah.
came out there. And actually, I think they were on their way to either Rangeley or to Vernal area, but they got out by Maybell on the river, and they must have been on the north side, and they couldn't cross the river.
I'll be darned.
So I think it was in the springtime, and they talked about coming through the mountains when there was some snow, and they,
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah.
so I'm assuming they came over rabbit ears, maybe. I'm not sure, but so anyway, they met somebody out there, and they said, "Oh yeah, Browns Park's a great place," and so they
Oh,
went
that's
out that
cool.
way and ended up
Nice.
out there. But from what I understand, Queen Anne was the first person
Yeah.
that they actually met out in the park.
That's
Wow.
really cool.
Oh,
So
that's
when they
awesome.
camped out, she came by and they met her. And but my great grandfather, I believe, worked for Charlie Krause.
Oh,
and,
no
and so
kidding.
then my grandpa Allen actually had where Krause Canyon is and where the Utah Bird Refuge is. That was theirs.
Right.
But the feds in the state of Utah condemned it under eminent domain and took it when I was 4. So out of 32 grandkids, I'm the oldest, and I'm the only one who can remember actually being on the old original ranch.
That's
Oh,
really cool,
gosh.
Dave.
So,
Yeah, it's cool except for the
Yeah.
government part.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that sucks.
but you know, it's pretty neat country. But I was lucky, you know, lived in town and went to school and had all the good things about that. But in the summer times, you
Yeah.
know, I didn't stay in town.
Yeah.
Got to do lots of fun things. Sometimes I thought they were working me kind of hard, but I didn't know any better. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was okay.
exactly. It was good. And so then you went to college at University of Wyoming.
Graduated from University of Wyoming. You know, thought I was going to find a job, and of course in Wyoming, wanted to stay there, but there wasn't anything available. And so tying back to the Browns Park area, my grandmother used to do in Rock Springs at the county fair a big garden competition. They'd have different
Uh-huh.
areas, Eden, Farson, and you know some other places would all bring crops like garden things and hay, whatever, and they had booths, and so it was a big competition. And my grandmother had passed away, but my mom had continued on doing that for a while
Oh,
at the
wow.
park. And so I was out of college. When I got done, I thought, man, I got a first time. I've got a summer I don't have to work. I'm gonna go
Oh, man.
rodeo all summer long for the first time.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Not
Broke
so
my
much.
collarbone out. It was the
Oh,
first rodeo.
no.
Oh no.
So I was laid up for the summer, and so I was looking for a job, and my mom had been to the fair, was dropping off ribbons to Boyd and Wanda Walker's house.
Oh, how cool.
And so a guy in Craig who had just gotten the job at the Old Production Credit Association was out there with the guy that was leaving, and they'd went to Walker's, you know, to introduce him to
Right.
them. And my mom happened to stop by to deliver the ribbons, and they got to talking, and he said, yeah, I'm looking for somebody, you know, on this job. My mom said, well, my son's looking for a job just like that.
That is so
So that's how I ended
cool.
up in Craig,
Wow.
was through that.
Wow. And that was with Farm Credit, right?
Yeah, what became Farm Credit.
Farm Credit,
At that
yeah.
time was the Rifle Production Credit Association, and then the federal land banks were separate.
Gotcha.
That's cool.
And so were you at the First National Bank building then or no? That was
Well,
yeah.
we were at the, I think they call it the Davis, or the old, so it was the bank building, but when we first started, we were on Taylor Street, which is, I sold that building to State Farm. It was State Farm for quite a while, and then it was a physical,
Oh, okay.
the little red building between
Yep.
Napa and
Oh
Yeah,
that was the original
Yep.
PCA building where I was at during
Oh,
all those
okay.
years. Then later, when we became Farm Credit, we merged the PCAs and the Federal Land Bank and Steamboat. I was doing both of those. closed it into one office, brought it to Craig, and then we were over there by across from Samuelson's in the building where the old title company used to be there at that time.
Right.
And it had been a bank before, and there was one side that had a vault, so we leased that, and we had the farm credit in there.
Gotcha. So the federal land bank thing, was that falling apart at that time? Or do I have my dates wrong?
Yeah, so that was, I started in September 1981 here with Production and Credit Association, and then I believe it was 1986 when the merger happened and kind of was put together into Farm Credit. And then by 1990, things were such that they were getting ready to shut down the offices up in this area.
Gotcha. And so then, is that when you decided to get into real estate?
Mm-hmm. So that's when I tried my hand at real estate.
How'd that go?
Well, at the time in Craig, you couldn't sell the nicest home for $100,000 if you could sell one. And, things were low. So I spent about a year and a half doing that. Struggled, financially a little bit to make any money.
Right.
I was new into the business, and everybody that I knew saw me as a lender. So,
Right.
I was trying to sell ranches and do that kind of stuff. But they would come in and talk to me, say, hey, what should I do about this and this and this? And then they'd go out of my office, go down and talk to Homer or to Dan Kowchek or somebody and say, I want to sell my
no.
ranch. So I figured out, that,
Lending was your call.
maybe real estate wasn't my thing. So, but it allowed me during that period of times when I got my MBA and was going to
Nice.
school during that period. So that kind of helped. But
Yeah. So then what'd you do after real estate? Where'd you go there?
so then that's when I started with what was First National Bank of the Rockies. They had, that had been a savings and loan forever on the corner of 6th and Yampa there. And the bank in Meeker ended up with that after it had closed down 2 times by the regulators as a savings and loan.
Mm-hmm.
And the old First National Bank of Meeker bought that. And about that time, they had just brought in a new president there. And so they were looking for some people from locally to go in. And so it was suggested to them that they come and talk to me, and ended up going in as a kind of vice president lender.
Right. And the one thing that, well, I can talk about that in a minute. So how I know you is because you hired me as a teller.
Oh my gosh.
And-
Was
Can you
that
believe
like, were you like, oh man.
I was young and naive.
Yeah, you had like black hair then. The gray
Was
might
she
partially be my fault.
Was she grammar police then too?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I was working in Steamboat and I wanted to get back over here, and I applied for a job there as a teller, and the only like bank president I knew was the one that I grew up with in Hayden, Mr. Boyd, who was like suit and tie, very reserved. And I meet Dave, who's like this just really nice guy, just normal person. And so when he called to tell me he was going to offer me the job, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much. And he goes, well, yeah, but now I have to call somebody else and tell them they don't get the job. And I was like, wow, that just really impressed me that you had a heart. And and then like sometimes on Saturdays you'd be out there helping us like with the tubes in the drive up or answering the phones. And I was like, you're just a regular guy. You're this cool president of the bank, but you're just a regular person too. And that always impressed me. You're the best boss ever. And I think anybody that's ever worked for you says that you
Thank you.
you are, and you're the best boss I ever had. But so you're at First National Bank of the Rockies.
Yeah, I was there. I started in 1992, I believe, and worked for almost 10 years there in total. And then towards the end of that, I decided I was tired of being a banker, and tried my hand at outfitting for a couple of years. But right in the middle of that, as I was starting, that's when 9/11 happened, and so that was kind of an interesting time too.
Yeah.
It was kind of hard to get up and
It's
started.
tough.
Everybody was, all nervous and whatever. So trying to get into the business at that time was a little bit tough to find new clientele and whatever.
Right.
So ended up back at First National Bank of the Rockies for a couple of years. And then the opportunity came where I'm at now.
Right. Which is Yampa Valley Bank, and you helped start that bank, you and some other locals.
Yeah. So basically, I was approached by, in a roundabout way, by some people in a steamboat to wanted to talk to me about starting a new bank in Craig, and so when I went and talked with them, my big deal was, I'd been doing it for quite a while, knew the community and knew all those things, so that's why they wanted, to talk to me. But what the opportunity presented was for the first time to really have a chance to have some, being truly invested in it and have some ownership. So I agreed to go ahead and start the branch here. They had started the branch in Steamboat in 2000, and we started right about the first part of 2005, bringing the investors in. And so we put a group of investors from Craig in together that put money in for the capital to start the branch here with the bank in Steamboat.
Right.
And that's how all that started.
And then it was first what, Moffat County Bank or
Yep. We started out as originally as Moffat County National Bank here.
National, yeah.
And so then over time, we decided later on for strategic reasons to change from a national bank to a state bank. And with that change, then we couldn't have the name national. Steamboat was First National Bank of Steamboat. We were Moffat County National Bank. We were going to have to get rid of the national part. So we decided probably was best to come up with one name, and that's how we decided to come up and use the name Yampa Valley Bank.
And so Yampa Valley National Bank, which is the one I know in Hayden from when I was a kid, that wasn't an option to take that name back, or?
No, well, the national part, no, because we were moving from an OCC regulated bank to a state regulated bank.
I see.
And so national could be in the name as a state bank. So we just went with the Yampa Valley Bank, and we thought that was the best name for what we had at that point in time, where we had a bank in Steamboat and a bank in Craig, and we basically covered the whole valley.
Right, which is ideal. And one thing that I've always known about you since I've worked for you and known you, and you and Parker share the same birthday, July 30th. So, but is how you relate to farmers and ranchers. And that was another thing that always impressed me when I was working for you, is they would come in with, sort of maybe like their last idea or their last hope for that year. And you're like, well, but in years past, you've done really well. So it's just, we got to write it out. And then, next year will be better. And you'd loan them the money or help them do whatever they needed to do. Instead of just some of the other banks were like, nope, and just write it off. And you were able to see that ranching side of things from growing up that way, to know that it's just one of those things and next year will be better.
Yeah, banking in general, and whether it was farm credit or the times in banking, when economic times get tough, of course everybody gets more conservative. And what I learned through my early years with farm credit, that was a corporate kind of a deal. The main bank was in Wichita. That's where the directions came. That's where your orders came from.
Right.
And so, and then from there you had regions, and then you had somebody there that kind of gave you the orders. It was always from not here. And so when I was at First National Bank of the Rockies, that was one of the nice things is, we were more kind of localized, and then you were able to grow that over time and build that up. And then for some, it kind of lost this identity. And when it went, we opened the office in Grand Junction, things kind of changed. And so I always, kind of looked at each deal separately, tried to look at the history of the customers. And sometimes, it gets to a point where you can't really help anybody, but there's often times where if, there's certain things that you can do, things change, the economy's going to come back. And the big thing is, being able to have the ability to make some of those decisions yourself, and or with people who are in the area, so they know the background of the people, and it's not just a name on a piece of paper or on a computer somewhere.
Right.
And so, through the years and with that experience, it gives you a little bit different insight maybe than some other people have.
Right.
Well, and you're honest. If you look at something and you'll be like, Casey, this isn't going to work. You're going to have to go redo this, and that's what I appreciate too, is you're honest.
Well, I mean, it's just easier for me anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, there's times when, yes, we look at stuff, and I oftentimes look at things that maybe other people won't look at, but that doesn't mean there isn't a chance to really get something done. But
We'd like to give a big shout out to E&L Signs for being our sponsor of this podcast. E&L Signs serves Western Colorado and Eastern Utah for all your screen printing and vehicle lettering needs. With over 30 years experience, Ed and Lori will get it done for you. So remember, E&L Signs.
So, you know, if I can look at it and know that there's nothing I can do, you know, then it's just easier for everybody involved instead of wasting time and doing
Right.
whatever. But if I see something or a reason why maybe I think there is a chance, then I don't mind spending the extra time and working towards that. Now, it doesn't always work, but
Right.
Let's
yeah.
try it.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you're a good way to think out of the box as far as like taking somebody's cows for collateral or whatever.
well, there's just you know, structuring a loan and how to, you know, make sure that it'll cash flow going forward with the change that you're trying to do. There's lots of ways to look at it, but it just comes with experience, I
Right.
think, for the most part.
Right. Cool. So you're a team roper, right?
Well, I am again, try, well,
Don't let. We went and
I
roped the other
tried.
night, and I was like, "All right, yep, Dave's
if
on
I could dally, that'd
fire."
be dangerous.
Oh, you guys all roped
That's
together?
my weakness. Yeah, she's a good roper too.
Oh, good.
Don't let him fool you.
You're not?
I'm there for the beer.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so didn't you and some other guys were going to do an arena
Mm-hmm.
a long time ago? What?
Well, yeah, but oh geez, now you're dating me again. But back in the day, a few of us had gotten together, and you know, at that time we were, you know, the old arena that's still here at the county fairgrounds has always been kind of a lightning rod at times. And back in the day, there was lots of issues because there's a group that of members that get to use it in the wintertime, and then the county uses it. It's on a big long-term lease and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, there was team roping at that time was kind of a big business, a lot of things going on. There was a lot of that going around here. So we had talked about, man, it would be really nice for Craig, you know, economically and for other reasons, if we could figure out how to enhance or have a better arena at the fairgrounds.
Gotcha.
And so we had come up with a plan to, you know, try to do it without taxpayer money and be able to put a nice arena out there. But politically, that was at the time a can of worms, and as usual in the area, the politics kind of went out. So, but we had looked at it and thought we had an idea of how to get that done. But what happened? The hockey rink happened instead of our deal, basically.
Okay. Well, is team roping still a big thing, though, right?
Yeah, I think more people just have their own arenas, which not
Right.
indoor, but
Mhm.
a lot of people just built their arena at home. And
Yeah, and more people go south now in the winter.
you should fire that idea back up, Dave. Come on, let's do it. And then we could put a sale ring in the
Oh,
back.
wow.
We could have horse sales once a month.
I'm too old.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on.
Yeah, you know, at the time I think would have been good, and it would have helped. But you know, the cost to do one now, and
Oh, I can't
you know,
imagine.
everything costs so much now that I think it'd be really hard. I don't know if you have enough support and enough of that going on in our market anymore. But
So a lot of the changes you've seen in the community, not only in banking, but in other things in the time that you've been here, it's quite a big change. And
yeah, there's a lot of things that have changed, but there's a lot of things that haven't changed, really. I
Right.
mean, in general, the biggest change for me, I mean, I think is when I first came here in 1981, it was kind of like living in Wyoming still. You know, I kind of felt like I fit in because,
Right.
you know, people were kind of conservative like Wyoming was, and
right,
you know, the area was similar, and so all those things were there. The ranchers were, you know, kind of the same types of ranches, and the people were all nice and still are. But, you know, over time, of course, the statewide politics have changed.
yikes, yeah,
But, and that always reflects back and affects us in certain areas. So,
right,
you know, the biggest change for me is really been the change in the way a lot of people look at things in today's world, and what the consequences of those are, and how that affects us here individually as well as a community.
Right. Yeah, it is a little scary right now, just from everything that's happening on the Front Range, and it's so different from how we are.
Yeah, and so the world's changing, and trying to adapt to those changes and all those kinds of things. I guess that's one thing they say. One thing you can count on is change.
True. How's lending changed? Quite a bit over the years.
It's changed a lot from the standpoint, especially in the consumer side of things. Unfortunately, it's like anything else. Through the years, you have some bad players here and there, whether that was in the mortgage debacle at one time,
Right.
or other areas that don't do things the way they should, and so then there's a big rush to call and say, well, we got to fix this, and we got to make it, we got to protect everybody, which is fine, and we need to make sure that those things are done right. But then what happens is they write all these laws and all these regulations, and so that comes back down, and so you're sifting through trying to figure out again, every few years, here comes more regulations, here's more things you got to do. You guys see it in the mortgage world. What used to be, a 3 or 4 page real estate contract is
Right.
how many pages now?
19.
Almost 20 pages.
Yeah.
What used to be a note, and you type it, and it was in triplicate with carbon, and if you made a mistake, you had to start over.
Yeah.
And maybe 2 other documents on loans. Now it's, it's depending on the size of loan, 10 pages to 30 pages
Oh my
of
gosh.
documents with all the legal stuff.
Yeah. And a lot of the pages are the same, say the same thing, just in different language.
Right.
But you gotta have those disclosures.
The flood zone one gets me every time at closing. 4 times. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Still not in a flood zone.
Yeah. And so, it's changed significantly, and it just takes so much more documentation, so much more effort to do a fairly simple deal anymore compared to what it used to, which in turn, from my viewpoint, they're trying to protect consumers, which we need to, but at the same time, they also sort of almost limit the consumers from availability because of all the complications of doing something. And the hardest part for me is when you sit down with a customer and you go through all these rules, and you got to send them out all this disclosure information now ahead of time, and you got to do this and you got to do that, and they look at you like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What? Oh, and so then they get all nervous and scared, and they go, well, what does that mean? Well, it means this. It's okay.
Yeah.
But so it's changed so much, and the consumers, have changed a little bit. But I guess it's the way of the world, and you still do what you got to do.
Right.
Because our main job is to make sure that, especially as a locally owned bank, to make sure that we're helping our community and help those people get financing.
And it shouldn't be scary. I mean, they just need to try not to get overwhelmed with all the paperwork. But my dad's that way. He's from the time when he'd just come in and handshake with you, and that was good enough. And now you make him fill out a financial statement every 6 months, and he has a meltdown.
Yeah. Well, in the good old days, somebody would call and say, hey, Dave, I want to go buy this car. I want to go do that. And I'd say, okay, we'll write the check, but hurry back and we'll get it done before we get here. Well, it might take 3 days to get back to the bank. Well, in today's world, it's the next day.
Yeah.
You can't do that. And those do, we'll do it after the fact. You can't do that kind of stuff anymore. So, but there wouldn't be many places you could do that anyway.
That's true.
In today's banking world, because most banks are a branch bank of some bigger deal.
You're just a number at.
So.
Yeah.
But anyway, we all yearn for the good old days. Those of us who are
We do.
60 plus.
Right.
Kyle he has to remind me, John Wayne was a movie. It's not real. I'm like, I know, but I want to live in those times. I bet it was hard, but it was just almost simple.
Yeah.
Well, you were worried about survival.
Yeah.
And
not if your kid's going to get stolen walking to school.
Right. And you didn't know what was going on in the Middle East or anywhere else.
Exactly.
Or even in Washington, D.C.
That's
probably
right.
for 2 months behind schedule, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of the problem is that I think is social media. It's a benefit and a curse because so many people get wound up seeing what's happening on social media, and
Right.
it doesn't have any necessarily effect on us, but mentally they let it affect the area, and like housing
Yeah.
prices and the housing market. Oh my gosh, the housing market's horrible. No, it's not.
It's
It maybe
good.
is somewhere else, but not here. And of course, right now it's not anywhere else. But at times when it is, in the downturn economy, when it is, people freak, and it's fine here.
Well, and you have to remember, at least my motto is, I don't really believe anything I read on the internet.
Yeah, that's true.
And then that way you don't have to worry about all the warning.
The fake
Drama.
news.
Fake, whatever's out there. But
Yeah,
you can see so many things, and if you focus on that and what somebody's opinion is all the time,
that's right.
you have to kind of think for yourself.
That's
And-
right.
And that's what I don't like about social media is, I think too many people just tend to take for granted, well, they must be right. It's on the internet.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
But
that's right. And it's
But
not,
in my world, you have to kind of be more of a, okay, I believe it when I see it.
right. And so, like the positive changes you think coming this year or next year, do you see anything positive happening?
Well, right now, it appears the Fed is probably going to continue to look at moving rates down a little bit.
That's good.
So, from a mortgage standpoint and borrowing standpoint, I think that remains fairly well as far as reasonable rates and access to money that way. Who knows? From day to day, there's something happens somewhere in the world that can change
Trigger it.
somebody's opinion or whatever.
Right.
But in general, everything I can see, the economy seems to be doing well. People are for the most part positive and out there wanting to do some things or buy some homes or whatever. And
Right.
so, for me, what I've seen a little bit is, seems like in the last 6 months to a year, we're starting to see people for the first time in my career that are maybe coming to Craig to move here for the reasons that they are coming here. It used to be, they came here because you had a mine job.
That's right.
Or you
Yep.
came here because you had this reason to come here.
Yeah.
But, it seems like we're being discovered a little bit as, a place where people can come who don't want to be around the rush hour.
I love
Yes.
hearing you say
24
that.
hours a day,
Right.
wherever they were living, want a little bit slower pace, but they want the amenities. There used to be people who came here when they sort of retired would come here because they used to hunt here for 20 years and they
Right.
loved it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not who's coming now.
Right. Exactly.
It's people who are looking for, being close to steamboat, being able to ski, ride bikes on trails, walk trails, go out to all the vast areas that we have and do hiking and those kinds of things. So I think, the future for us, we're going through change. I think
Yeah.
Craig's going to change. We know there's going to be, over the next 10 years, probably a significant reduction in some of the things that are happening with our energies between the coal mines and the power plant.
Right.
Through no fault of their own necessarily, but those changes are coming. But with that, I think we'll see some other changes come that will be different than what Craig has seen in the past, at least during
Right.
the years I've been here.
Right. The term now is location neutral. They
Right.
work from home and whatever, but you're exactly right. Is they're wanting to get out of the rush hour traffic. They're coming over from the Front Range or from other cities that are bigger, and they have seen it on the map or they've looked at it on the internet or whatever and decided this is where they want to be because it's quiet and peaceful here. And
Well, the internet has changed the way people buy real estate. You guys know that better than
no,
I do.
absolutely.
It's crazy.
Back in the old days, if you wanted to go say, well, where do you think should we go look somewhere to? You'd have to drive out there. You'd have to
Right.
go physically see it
right.
to even get an idea. And then you might say, oh my gosh, this isn't right. But nowadays you can find enough pictures and enough information
Narrow it
on the
down.
internet. They look at all the homes that are available.
That's
Before they
right.
ever talk to you guys, they read up on the community. They can do their due diligence without ever coming here first
That's right.
and look at several other places. And then when they decide, okay, there's one or two places we have narrowed it down to, then that's where they go. But
Right.
those kinds of things have changed, and
They have.
and sometimes you don't stop and think about how much access people have to information compared to what they used to, and why because we sit here and say, oh, I can't believe they came from California to here,
Right.
and I hired a young gal recently, and she bought a place here before she ever moved here. She'd never been here, and she took the job, and I
Yeah.
was like, how can you do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
She's
it's
just
no big deal. They did
yeah.
everything, she looked at everything, and so, that next generation,
Yeah. The
they look at things way
millennial.
different than
Yeah.
what we do. So
They do.
Yeah.
that's been the hardest thing for me is you have to kind of stay on top of, the era I grew up in, and you think that way, but then you have to kind of look back here and start thinking a little bit different because
Right.
those people are not looking at it the way you would.
No, they're already
Right.
moved and packed, and you're
Yeah.
already running
Yeah.
numbers
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
So
They have
like,
and researched everything.
my kids' generation, your guys'
Mhm.
generation, you guys do things way differently than we ever did.
yeah.
Right.
And, drives us
So we're
parents a
cooler.
little-
Is that what it is? We're cooler.
Oh, I wouldn't say you're cooler. You're probably, to some degree, more outgoing and more willing to
Take a
take a
chance.
chance, maybe,
Yeah. That's true.
than what, my parents, back in those days, you worked at the same job for 30 years and retired, and,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was success.
Right. Right.
And nowadays, you guys don't. You might change jobs 20, 30 times in your career.
Yeah, just have fun.
Exactly. And
That
move
was-
houses and everything. Whereas, like, like my dad is, I think this is the second house they've ever owned. You was probably the first or second.
Well, it depends. Do you count a mobile home? I owned a mobile home.
Okay,
first,
so I could count that for my dad, so that's 3.
and then the house we're in.
Yeah, yeah,
So you got
That's
two.
it.
yeah, yeah. Gosh, my dad was like a trendsetter. When we came here like 42 years ago, that's the reason we left California, is because it was a total disaster then. And my dad was like, we're out. And he'd been coming here hunting with my uncle since like the 60s. So he's like, we're coming to Hayden, Colorado. And my mom's like, what?
Yeah, she probably never got to see it till she got here.
Right. Yeah. And I think she was convinced for a long time we'd move back. And my dad's like, nope.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Which means no. Yeah, but it's the life that we have here is, I think it's hard to have anywhere else,
Mhm. We're lucky. We're very
Pretty
lucky.
fortunate.
Oh yeah, I mean, Craig's been really good to me. I've really enjoyed being here through the years, and it's still a great place, and I still think we have a good
You're
future.
the best woman dressed up.
I was just gonna get to that.
Oh, boy,
So
here
in
we go.
Kiwanis, so
the
I
best legs in town is what I'm told.
you do. So I started working for you in February, just before the Kiwanis play, and we go to the Kiwanis, and some of my coworkers are dying laughing when the Spice Girls come out, and I'm like, what is so funny, And I'm looking at the one gal, and she is like beautiful, like her legs are awesome and everything, and just Candy Dildine, tears running down her face, and I'm thinking, what? And she's like, that's Dave, and I'm like, wow, I'm never wearing a dress again. So yeah, you're pretty good at the Kiwanis thing,
Yeah, I guess so.
and
Legendary.
your musician, and
Yeah, got into the Kiwanis. I think I joined in late 1987, and when I first played was 1988. So I believe this last year was my 32nd.
Wow, that's
cool.
awesome.
Such a great
It
organization.
is. It's a great organization. Thank you for all you do for
Oh,
that.
you bet.
Yeah, that's
So I didn't know what I was getting into, but
yeah.
you get used to it after a while.
Yeah, now it doesn't even faze you.
Now you just laugh at all the young bucks like Kyle and just say, yeah.
Yeah, you have to stay in that club long enough so you can bring in the next generation and get them to do the stuff that you used to have to do.
Yeah.
Right,
So you can kind of sit back and say, okay, it was all worth it because now I can watch them do that stuff.
right, exactly. And what all instruments do you play?
Well, truly, I don't know if I play anything. I was a drummer for the most part. I played a little bit of piano. Started out playing the piano. My mother made me practice every morning. Piano for a few years, but then tried a little bit of trumpet. Wasn't very good at that, and I play about 3 or 4 notes or chords on a guitar, and I've tried to play the guitar, but I'm not very good at it, and I don't get a chance to practice.
Really? 'Cause I think you're really good at the guitar, no?
Well, back when I was playing all the time, did a little bit more. Now today I can't, I used to sing a lot all the time.
Yeah.
So any of that stuff, if you don't keep doing it, it kind of
kinda slips
disappears
away.
away on you.
Yeah.
Goes away. But actually, in high school and in college, I came to Craig a lot before I ever moved here because we used to play a lot of dances,
Oh, okay.
4-H deals,
Yeah.
whatever. Actually, the band I was in, we played the state cattlemen's convention over in Steamboat, Sheraton one time
Oh, cool.
before I ever lived here. And
What was the name of your band?
The Country Sounds.
Cool.
So for anybody who was around back in the tough times of the 80s, they used to have a party every year. Randy Naki and some other guys used to put that on, called the Survivor
Oh, okay.
Party.
Okay.
So it was kind of like, if you survived, we're still in Craig.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We'd have a party every year to celebrate.
Celebrate.
That, well, we're still here.
Very good.
Yeah, so we used to play that all the time and different things like that. And so then after I moved here, the guys from Wyoming I played with, I actually brought in another guy from Craig for a while that played piano, was in the band with us, and different people came in and out through the years. But I played from a junior in high school till probably I think about 32 or maybe 33 when about the time my son Eric was born after second kid. Then it got too much and we were always traveling. I was either traveling up there or they were traveling down here. So
Right.
but I got through high school buying all my own fuel and all that kind of stuff.
From
And
just being in your
clothes,
band.
Cool.
That's awesome.
from money playing in the band and in
Yeah.
college it was part of the way I got through college. So.
That's awesome.
That's
That's
really
really
cool.
cool. Yeah. Very cool. Cool. So what? Okay, Parker has a note here. He always puts this in. I should not have to look at this to remember. What is one thing you strive to achieve every day?
I think probably professionally, I would say that every day I try to do what's best in any given situation for both the bank and the customer that's involved and try to think through how can we best do this or do that will benefit everybody involved. Sometimes not easy to do, but
Right.
I think for the most part just be who I am, and talk with the customers and still have an open door, even though through the years and with the growth of the bank now, sometimes I don't do as many loans as I used to, and I
Right.
can't do all the things that I used to do
Right.
on each individual deal. So, but I still try to stay involved and talk to a lot of the customers as well as the realtors and everybody else
Right.
involved in a deal. Talk through things if there's any questions, and then give back with my employees to talk to them. Okay, well, let's see if we can do this.
Right. Because people are used to dealing with you, and especially like my dad's age group, they've always dealt with you. That's who they want to deal with, and maybe you're not doing those type of deals, and somebody else in the bank is, but you're the person they want to talk to.
Yeah, and that's good and bad, but
Right.
it's good because it makes me feel good that they still want to talk to me, even though they probably don't understand I'm not the one getting it really done for them sometimes.
right.
But
Yeah.
and so it can be challenging at times because you've got other things to do, but for the most part it's still banking is not really rocket science.
Right.
To me it's really about relationships. It's about people and having people who will treat others well and
That's right.
and that type of thing. And even though you can read all over the internet probably, or business deals that say community banking or local banking's kind of on the way out, and you gotta offer this online, and all these
Right.
things are changing in the world. Probably when you get in the city and you in the suburbs, that's probably true to some degree. That's changing over time.
Right.
But in a place like Craig or in these smaller communities, I still think what we do means something to people.
It does.
It
And
does.
they still want to be able to get on their phone and transfer some money if they need
Right.
to, or
Have
do
the
this and do that
amenities.
convenience.
Hey Dave, I lost my debit card in Vegas. I don't know. Can you cancel
Don't
that?
tell nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Or you
know,
washed
it's-
it or whatever. Yeah.
To me, we still provide a niche in the
Yes,
community,
definitely.
and I still believe there's a place for us as long as we can continue to provide the services that the customers are looking for, in addition to all those things that the other banks can
Right.
provide.
The amenities, but still provide that
Personal
personalized
touch.
service. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. And you are a really genuine person, and what you see is what you get, and I think that means a lot to people too. That's how we are here, and people like that. They don't want to be told a
Well.
bunch of fluff, you know.
Well, most people are pretty savvy.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know, you might fool them once, but you usually don't get a chance to try to fool them twice. So,
Right, for sure. Well, is there anything else we maybe forgot that you want to touch on, or?
gee, I can't think of anything, I guess, right now, but
Okay.
I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about for sure when we got here, but
Yeah, neither were we. We just kind of wing it.
so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fine.
I knew a bunch of stuff that I wanted to say and bring up, but
I
yeah.
can't believe they put this kind of stuff on the internet.
I know. Oscar's still trying to figure it out. He goes, "What is the podcast again? You're gonna have to get it on my phone so I can listen to
Okay,
it."
so that means you're going to have to teach me how to do that because I've never seen a podcast before.
Yeah, you haven't?
No,
Yeah.
I've never watched
So
one.
easy.
Oh, have you listened to one?
No.
Seriously, and now you're on one.
And
Look
now
at
I'm
this.
on one. Okay. Set it up before I ever
Dave.
saw one.
Oh my
You.
gosh, yeah. They're great. There's a lot of information on different
Yeah.
people on podcasts and stuff that you can follow all the time. And
Well, the time it would take me to figure out how to do it, I don't have that kind of time.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
simple. It's simple.
yeah,
Yeah,
Gosh,
that's
yeah.
what my son keeps telling me. Yeah, it's simple. No, it's not.
that's all right. That's all right. Cool. Well, thank you very much for being our guest today. We really appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
We'd like to give a big shout out to E&L Signs for being our sponsor of this podcast. E&L Signs serves Western Colorado and Eastern Utah for all your screen printing and vehicle lettering needs. With over 30 years experience, Ed Moore will get it done for you. So remember, E&L Signs.